Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th episode of your new favorite internet show, Visioncon Live. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the man of the hour. He's a voice actor behind such popular characters as Knuckles from Sonic, Sector from Mortal Kombat 11, and Steve Delhomme from Catherine Full Body, just to name a few. He's the voice connoisseur with an infectious allure. Please help me welcome the one, the only, Dave B. Mitchell. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well. And actually, I did come here to see you, so maybe I'm the one, but...
Dave, you're too kind. Thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Oh, so glad to be here. Again, I wish you could be in person, but I'm glad we can all still connect like this. So
Sure. I mean, at this point, we take what we can get as long as we're all being safe. But Dave, I just wanted to start us out kind of the same way I start all of these interviews. What I want to know is the superhero origin story of Dave B. Mitchell. Start us from the beginning and take us to, an abridged version of where we are today.
Well, let's see. I was born. I grew. I won't say I matured because I don't think I've done that, but physically, I guess. The sort of condensed version is growing up like a lot of people in my position. I was the kid, doing the silly voices and making jokes and kind of, showing off in class and that kind of thing. And did theater and music from, the earliest ages. I was on stage a lot through school and set off when I was about 21 doing music full time. And I when I got out of high school, my idea was, okay, I'm going to split my time between acting and music because I love both of them. And I figured whichever thing was presenting the most opportunity at any given moment would be the thing I'd do at that moment and kind of keep my toe in both waters. And then, eventually I figured out, oh, actually there is a way to make a living doing this. And so I kind of just started plugging away at it. And, like most people, I just busted my butt for a lot of years and, ate ramen and wondered how I was going to pay my bills and just kind of kept working and learning and connecting and just doing the work and trying to get better. And eventually moved out to LA in 2004. And as of literally a year, I moved here October 2004, October 2005, I was a voice actor full time, and that's all I've done since. And, I have a great life. I love what I do. And I'm one of the lucky people that gets to use the things that are part of who I am and actually make a living at it. Because most people don't get to do that. So I guess that's kind of the short version. And, along the way, and still to this day, every day, I'm still learning and trying to be better and learning from other people and just paying attention to the work and just trying to do the best job I can and always trying to reach for the next thing.
Well, first, big question of the interview.
Ooh.
Top ramen guy, a Maruchan ramen guy, or are we talking cup noodle?
The funny thing is, I would vary between the three. I still do, actually, because I still actually really like ramen noodles. Because fortunately, I never got to the point where I had eaten them so much that I couldn't stand them anymore.
Sure.
But I think I have a mixture of all three on my shelves right now, and a couple of other different brands, some vegan brands and a few things like that. So I'll go. I will say, cup of noodles. That's pretty cool, just for the form factor. Just because of the fact you got it, you put the water in, you can nuke it, or you can just put the kettle on and or stick it under the Keurig or whatever. So for ease, I have to say cup of noodles, but they kind of all work for me. So
my man. All right, but no, in all seriousness, so what do you think your first, maybe not so much your big like debut role, but what do you think was the first role that you got that you thought, all right, I'm kind of on the fast track to stardom?
I don't think I've ever thought that, actually.
You're wrong, but that's fine.
I think most people probably, I think it's sort of the frog in the boiling water thing. It's just like every job you're happy to have it. And some you kind of get an idea that, oh, this is, I forgot to silence my phone. Wow, what a rookie mistake.
Also, forgive me by saying that you're wrong. I misinterpreted what you were saying. I thought you said you never made it. And I was like, okay, hold on.
Oh, no, just that whole idea of, fast track to stardom thing. It's like, the thing that I've said a lot is, and I've said this a lot over the years, which is, when I came here, fortunately, I came to LA. I'd already been working as a voice actor in a few other markets for about 7 years by the time I got here. And my whole idea was I never thought about the idea of being famous. I just thought about the idea of being busy. I just wanted to do the work. And yeah, along the way, there've been a few things that you kind of go, oh, this is kind of a big deal. But for the most part, every job is different. You're happy to have every job. And my agent always says something I think is very telling, and people should, know this, that it's just as hard to book a local radio spot as it is to book a national campaign, because the skill set's pretty much the same. And in a lot of cases, you're competing against the same people, and the work is the work. So it's hard on every level, really. But there definitely, there were some things along the way I can definitely look at. I remember, I think the first video game that I ever did, I think it was the first one, I believe it was Dynasty Warriors 5, playing Guan Yu. I took over when Crispin left. And that was one of those, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And just got to work on a few other. Certainly one of the earliest ones I did when I was out here was Highlander is my favorite movie of all time. It's my absolute favorite movie. I've seen it probably 80 times. I know every word, every line, backwards and forwards. When I was in high school, my best friend and I watched it 4 times in a row one night. So I worked on an animated film, it was a feature-length anime called Highlander: The Search for Vengeance. It was done by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who's the guy that did Vampire Hunter D and Ninja Scroll, and so he's super legit. He's very, very, he's revered in anime circles. And I got to play a bunch of characters in that. And in fact, if you see that movie, it's actually a really cool film because it kind of takes the premise leading up to the first Highlander movie. And let's be honest, there's only one. There can be only one. But it sort of takes the premise that leads up to Highlander from 1986 and kind of skips over Connor McLeod and all those events and the stuff in the TV show. And the TV show is actually quite good. I actually like the TV show quite a bit. But so it jumps into this, typical anime thing of this dystopian future stuff going on. And I'm the first immortal villain that you actually see in the movie. His name's Malik. He's this huge mutant that uses a huge chainsaw as his weapon, which for beheadings, that's a pretty good choice. Oh, yeah. Better than a sword, really, because, swords, you got to develop some skill to actually behead someone. A chainsaw, that's pretty much does the work. But so I remember standing in the booth. This was 2005, standing in the booth, and there's the line on the page in front of me. And I actually got to utter the line, "There can be only one." And it was one of those moments, the pinch yourself moment where you go, wait a minute, what am I doing here? How did I get here? What is happening right now? Am I really doing this? So I think if anything, just because it was one of the earlier ones and it was just so personal, that's one of those, I still have those pinch yourself, what I call signpost moments, the things where you do them and you kind of step aside from yourself for a moment and go, this is where I am. Huh. How did I get here? And wow, this is great. If you'd gone back, 20 years and told, teenage me sitting in the theater watching Highlander, one of these days you're actually going to be a part of this and you're going to get to say that line, I would have been like, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I guess there are those signpost moments that happen, all along. And I feel like you still need to, and I think that by and large, the majority of us do, because you really won't find egos with voice actors as a general rule. I mean, it's such a great community of people that just really love the work and love each other and are super supportive. And I think all of us still kind of are in that thing of like, no matter how successful or big you get, we're still able and still willing to kind of step aside for a moment and go, wow, look at this thing that I get to do. Look at what I'm doing right now. So.
I mean, that's just so great. I mean, honestly, like in my personal opinion, obviously, every celebrity I get to interview, I'm always very grateful for the job that I have. But I will say it is interesting that you bring up the fact that, you voice actors are very humble stock. You're not exactly as egotistical as some celebrities are. And, hey, different strokes for different folks. But I would agree with you with that. So whenever I'm told, hey, you're going to be interviewing X celebrity, he slash she slash they are a voice actor, actress. I'm like, yes, internally. But my next question, though, kind of deviates a little bit from that. Now, you said that you have a lot of signpost moments, which not surprising to me in the slightest. I mean, you as well as all of these guests that we've interviewed so far have IMDb pages, off the charts. If I spent the time going through each and every character, we'd be here all day. But I did notice something with yours, and this might just be, though I don't think I'm off base here, but at least from what I've known, I'm a big fan of yours through a lot of your video game works. And I've noticed that you do a lot of video game voice acting. In comparison, you also do, cartoons and anime as well. But a lot of your bigger roles are video games. Now, is that by...
Sure, yeah.
I'm sorry, is that by design, or is that just kind of how it came about, kind of a coincidence?
I mean, it's really how it came about because, realistically, I'm really fortunate in that I really do get to work in just about every area. The only thing I don't do is audiobooks. And I actually do have a good skill set for doing audiobooks. I really don't have the time because that, we always call that's the marathon. And there are so many wonderful narrators doing audiobooks that, that just bring all of these characters to bear and the storytelling ability and all of that. But I don't have the time for that. And real honestly, just because I would be new in that particular corner of the business, it's just being honest, financially, it could take me away from other things that are more lucrative. Just because of the time commitment, because I would be at, on the bottom rung as far as that goes, because I would be the new guy. But realistically, I'm very fortunate in that I get to audition for just about everything that, that comes through my agency as far as types of work. Definitely have, the bulk of the work I've done, the majority at least, definitely has been in video games. I've done over 100 games at this point. I used to be a big gamer. I have not been in recent years because I know how obsessive I'll get about games. So I've kind of not. And here's the really funny thing. To this day, I still have yet to actually play a game I'm in.
Man, that was my next question.
Which is funny because I'll tell you, I do have one that I'm waiting. And with all the time, like I've actually devoted a lot of my time this isolation time and being at home to getting back into writing and recording music again, because that was something I had kind of slipped aside a bit with work and just social life and all that sort of stuff because I wasn't home that much. So I've really been back in the studio here. You can't see it, but I got my keyboards all around. I think you can see one of them in the background there. But I do have Mortal Kombat 11. Because I've been a huge MK fan since day one, going all the way back. And, when I got a chance to go in and actually create a brand new character, playable character for MK11, I was over the moon with getting to be Gearus. And then when I showed up to do that and they told me, and I saw, wait a minute, Sector? They said, yeah. I was like Lin Kuei Robo Ninja Sector? They said, yeah. I lost my mind because Sector is my favorite Mortal Kombat character in that whole universe. So when I showed up and they're like, oh, you're playing Sector too. I was like, what? So honestly, we want every job that we can get. We do, we're mercenaries. And not in the sense that we don't care. We care about every job we do. And we devote ourselves and kind of try to do the best work we can and get the job done. I've said a million times in interviews, but, I liken what we do to really, we're like studio musicians because you hire us because we've got the chops to come in and sight read stuff and play anything you put in front of us and play it well. But sometimes you need us to play whole notes. It's not about showing off. It's like, okay, your part is you're playing a whole note. Okay, well technically boring, but if you don't play the note, there's no chord, no music. We're there to make the music happen. So we want to do everything. We want to give everything we can. It just seems like, a lot of the opportunity has certainly come in video games. And I remember one of the first people that I met out here, who's a friend and a guy that everybody knows, who's one of the very best in the business. And he's a great guy too. It was Nolan North. And I ended up working on something with Nolan. And this was when I'd been out here, for maybe a year, not even. And he told me, he said, you know what? You're going to do really well here. And I'll tell you right now, starting out, you're going to do a ton of video games because you have the skill set for it. And there's so much more work in that field coming out that I'll tell you right now, you'll move on to other things too. But he said, you're going to do a ton of games. And he was right, because that's still the thing that, numerically, the greatest number of sessions I do in any given month are definitely games. And I'm, so thankful for it, because I love that world, and I get it, having played a lot of games. It's just like anything else. I know what it's supposed to sound like. I know how that world's supposed to work. I know what fans and the audience and the players, what they're expecting. So, it's a thing of meeting the requirements of the creators and the writers and the directors, because obviously their vision takes first place. That's the most important thing. But it also helps that they and I know what the players are kind of looking for, so we can kind of try to create the best experience for them that we can. And yeah, I mean, I love doing it because it's so varied, and you never know what you're working on from day to day. And so no, it wasn't by design. It was really more just kind of luck. The fact that I was able to get in and go in and hopefully do good work and be easy to work with, which is a huge thing. You make people's lives easier, and if you do a good job and you make their life easier, when they're going to keep calling you. So.
Well, you used a word that I actually kind of want to explore a little bit. You said mercenaries, which honestly is my new favorite way to describe a voice actor. But, now I would say you're more of like, an arena champion. If somebody needs a voice actor for a video game or really anything, boom, Dave B. Mitchell, if I'm like a studio exec. But, it wasn't like that day one. So for the folks watching at home that are kind of, thinking, hey, maybe I want to give voice acting a shot. Maybe I want this to lead up to be my ultimate profession. Can you give them, I don't know, some tales of maybe your, some of the trials you had to go through to make it to you are today? It couldn't have been easy, to straight out the gate, right?
No, for sure. I mean, there's some specific advice I give to anybody that says they want to be a voice actor. And the reality, I think, again, that you'll find is because our community is just made up of really good people and very supportive people of each other. And I think the majority of us really try to encourage other people too, because we were that person at one time. And you never know who you're talking to. You could be talking to some kid who's better than you are, who's going to be the next big thing. So, you want to be realistic, because it is hard. It's hard. It's a long haul. There's no shortcut. If you ask 100 of us that question, you'll probably get 100 different answers, and they're all just as valid, but just nobody's path is the same, in life, but certainly in the business, it's true. But I think the biggest thing, just sort of to answer this in a two-part way, if you want to be a voice actor, and there's a reason I've grown to kind of dislike the term voiceover artist. Not that it's not valid, and that voiceover artist is a thing, and I do some work as a voiceover artist for sure. But more or less, most of the work we do, particularly if you're talking about games, animation, stuff like that, it's voice acting. I'm a voice actor. We are actors. You just don't see us. And sometimes people want to say, oh, well, it's harder than on camera, and the reality is none of it's easy. It's ultimately, we're all trying to achieve the same goal. We're just trying to tell the truth. Whatever the character's truth is, we're trying to tell the truth. We want you to believe that we are who we are pretending to be. And then on camera has its own set of challenges, which are difficult. Voice acting has its own set of challenges. I don't say one's easier than the other. They're both equally difficult. Ultimately, we have the same goal. So if you want to be a voice actor, then the most important thing in that phrase, actor. You gotta be an actor. You gotta study acting. You gotta put the time in. You gotta do the work, because one of the traps a lot of people fall into, like, oh, I can do voices, and they can imitate other cartoon characters or things like that. And that's great. And that's a great place to start. That's where a lot of people start, because it kind of cues your ear into hearing the differences, finding those specific things, seeing what other people have done. But ultimately, it comes down to, if it's just you doing a voice and I go, oh, that's someone doing a voice, well, then ultimately it's failed. Because I don't want to hear something and say that's someone doing a voice. I want to hear something and just think, oh, well, that's who that character is. That's how they talk. That's how they think. That's how they react. That's what they do. And just buy it as the truth. So that's always my advice when people say, how do I get into voice acting? Work on your acting. That's first and foremost, because having a quote unquote, a good voice is generously probably about 10% of the gig these days. It's not so much about having that voice. Back in the old days, particularly for announcers and things like that, it was about that voice. But now it's about, do I believe you? Are you inhabiting the character? Do I believe that the character as they're speaking to me is speaking from themselves, from their brain and from their heart and from their experiences and who they are? So that's, you can make, if you're a good actor, you don't have to have a great voice. You just have to convince people that you're telling the truth. And certainly as far as the difficulty of it goes, a lot of it, two things. One, cliche, but work your butt off, work hard, commit yourself to it, do it, don't quit, learn, study, practice, work, network. And the other half of that is I was very lucky when I got here in that, I'd had a bunch of experience before I got here. So I didn't get here with stars in my eyes thinking I want to be famous. I wanted to work. That was it. I just wanted to work. And I met some people early on who helped me. One of the people that I'm sure all of you are fans of, not only her work, but if you've ever met her, then you were completely in love with her, is Karen Strassman. Karen is one of the best in the business. She's one of my favorite human beings. And Karen was so helpful and instrumental for me when I first met her that she walked me into a bunch of places. I ended up doing Dynasty Warriors 5 because Karen introduced me to them. Karen walked me into a company called PCB Productions, which if you're gamers, you may know who they are. If you don't, they're one of the big AAA studios that does the big games. They do the Call of Duties. We did, we've done so much huge stuff there. They do a lot of the localization on Japanese games too. So a lot of stuff goes through them. Keith and Val, I adore both of them. They're, again, wonderful human beings. Val, a very accomplished voice actor herself. Both of them great directors. Keith's an amazing musician, just blah, blah, blah. I could go on all day because I love him. But she walked me into them. And from there, I've now worked for them on so many projects for years. And to the point, as you had said earlier, where having done all of that, tried to do the best work I could do and try to make it easy to be around and not be a pain in people's butt. That, now they will call me. Val has said a lot of the time, hey, you're my Swiss Army knife. If I need someone to come in and just knock out a bunch of characters, I'm just going to call you, which is great. So, the short answer to my typically long-winded responses in that case is work on your acting, be a good actor, and maybe even more importantly, be a good person. Be professional, be someone that people want to have around, that doesn't walk in with an attitude, doesn't walk in with ego, will listen, be directable, collaborative, and just make it easier on people. And if you are a good person and you do a good job, you will work, and that will breed more work. And that's how you build a career.
Well, the next question I got, to try to jump off the great response you just gave for that one, is actually, I'm going to break one of my personal rules. Catherine, I know you're watching right now. You just submitted a question that I usually wait for viewers' questions until the very end, but it's just so great that I just can't wait for the answer. So I'm going to read off a Catherine Woods Apprentice's question, which is asking, have you ever had anything like imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you deal with it? Stuff like mental health is very important, not only to me, but Visioncon as a whole. So
Sure.
Anytime I see kind of a mental health centric question, I always kind of jump on it. So have you ever had any kind of sort of imposter syndrome, Dave? And if you have, how'd you deal with it?
Real honestly, no, I haven't. And I don't want that to sound like an arrogant response. I think just, again, I'm going to be 51 in July. By the time that I got out here and was doing this as a full-time career, I was already in my 40s. I guess, right? 2000. Oh no, I guess I was late 30s. But I think I was pretty well settled on who I am, I'd like to think. And I'm, unlike so many friends and people I know, I was really lucky that I had a great family life growing up. Mom, dad, younger brother. And I think one of the big things and one of the reasons why I never ran into that was that, unlike a lot of people that went into entertainment as actors, musicians, artists, whatever, not one time, not one day, not 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second of my life did my parents ever say to me, maybe you should think about something else, or do you have a fallback position, or how are you going to make a living? Every moment of my life, my dad passed away several years ago now, but one of my favorite things is that he got to see me succeed. And he got to see that the faith that he and my mom had placed in me was not misplaced. And that's one of my favorite things, is that I got to sort of reward their faith in me by saying, hey, you know what? You encouraged me to do this, and you were right, because I did it. So I think just knowing that I've put the work in, knowing that I try to be the best person I can be. I mean, God knows I'm not perfect. I make plenty of mistakes, as we all do. And I will continue to make plenty of mistakes. The big thing is I try to acknowledge them if I'm confronted with them and I'm wrong. I try to be really honest with myself and realize, hey, I was wrong. I need to apologize sincerely. I need to try and make this right. And if I can't make it right, I need to try and make sure I don't do it again. So I kind of feel like just knowing that, I think, has given me at least a basis of confidence, where when I get things, it's kind of like, all right, I got here. Nobody handed it to me. I didn't, there's a certain amount of luck involved for sure. But I think the big thing is just knowing, okay, I'm here because I worked hard and I know the skills that I have, because you need to have self-confidence. You need to know what you can do. And you also need to know what you can't do. And, if I'm confronted with something I know is just not right for me and I'm not the right guy, I'll tell you up front. I'll say, you know what, I'm probably not the best choice for this. There's someone that's going to do this better than I am. So I think that's part of it too, is that everything that I do, I feel like I got there honestly. And I try to just check myself every day and make sure, okay, and I think that's one of my favorite things, sort of going back to that I think feeds into that. So one of the people I worked with on Dynasty Warriors 5, a woman named Stacy, absolute sweetheart. I remember her saying to me the first time we met, and we had been working together, she said, you know something, you're going to do really well in this business here. I hope that you always stay the same person that you are right now. And years later, we were working on something else after having done a lot of projects together. And she actually said to me, do you remember about 5-6 years ago when I said to you that you were going to do well and I hoped you'd always be the same guy? And I said, yeah, of course. Of course I remember that. And she said, well, you did do well, and you're absolutely the same guy that I met back then. And that's probably even more than people complimenting my work. That's probably an even bigger compliment for me, just that that she still thought I was the same guy, and she thought I was a decent person to begin with, and that I still was. So if I had a choice of things for my gravestone, if I had a choice between he was a great voice actor with a lot of talent, or he was a good guy who tried to be a decent person, I'll take the good guy, decent person thing. Because the reality is, talent's not a choice. Talent's a gift. It's something you can't take credit for having talent. You can take some pride in putting the work in to hone and develop that talent and apply it, but deciding, making the choice to be a good person and try to impact others in a positive way, that's a choice, and that makes it special. So I would take that anytime.
Well, man, that was just a really powerful answer and just very impactful words, which makes me feel really bad that my next few questions involve you being a great voice actor. But you know what? We're going to roll with it.
Well, I didn't say I don't like that part too, but it's definitely, it comes after the trying to be a good guy part. So
Of course. Well, but Dave B. Mitchell, we all know you for a myriad of different roles, be it video games, anime, cartoons. But I want to know, what are some of your favorites throughout the years that you voiced?
There's a lot. Probably my usual answer when people ask if there's one particular character I really love playing, and probably is my favorite. There's a webcomic called Looking for Group, which you may or may not know. If you don't, you should check it out. It's been going now for 13, 14 years. So there's a lot of story there. It started off as generally a parody of WoW, which I don't know if you can see. I've got one of my Horde shirts on right now because most of the WoW characters I've played have been Horde. So, but it started off as a parody of WoW, and then it kind of expanded out to sort of a catch-all for like all pop culture and fantasy and sci-fi and stuff. And it's really, really funny, and it's really great. Ryan Sommer, who's the writer, really funny, brilliant guy. Larda Souza, the artist, is a phenomenal artist. I usually every time I've gone to Comic-Con, it's been to go hang out with those guys at their booth and sign stuff, and just watching Lar work. This guy just spins these incredible pieces of art out of nothing right in front of me, and I'm just like, I'm in awe of him. So they created this thing, and I had done some work with them. They have a company called Blind Ferret up in Canada, and I had done some voice work for them on some of their earliest animated stuff. And so when they came out with Looking for Group, Ryan called me up one day and said, "Hey, so you know the strip?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "So you know Richard?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Well, you've always been the guy I had in mind to be the voice of Richard. When I started writing him, I was thinking of you as voicing him." So he gave me what they were looking for. We kind of worked it out together, what Richard sounded like. And so I've gotten to play Richard we've done a few animated things over the years, mostly teaser trailers for what was supposed to be a feature-length film, which I think I'm not sure if that's going on, if they're doing a series. We've done some game stuff, but Richard, he's this undead warlock who goes around gleefully killing everyone in sight, men, women, children, pets, he doesn't care, while usually singing parodies of Disney songs. So I love playing Richard because I get to be, a British bad guy who gets to sing Disney songs, and just it's so funny. Richard's probably the most fun. Shocker from Spider-Man PS4 was definitely a big deal. Because I'm a huge comic book fan. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool geek and nerd, have been my whole life. Still am. That will never change. And huge Spider-Man fan. So to get to bring, really one of the iconic Spider-Man villains to life, and just everything about that game, if you've played it, I sing its praises every time I get a chance because, man, everybody that worked on that thing knocked that game out of the park. The writing, the art design, the coding, the music, the dialogue, the actors, just every single person on every single level brought their A game and made easily one of the best things I feel like I've ever been involved with. And to get to portray Herman, Shocker, they gave so much depth to him for the relatively short time that he's there. And I kind of felt like, too, it was one of the first times, just even the way they depicted him, when they showed me some of the early animations of him with the shock gauntlets, I was kind of like, okay. Yeah. I felt like that was the first time we've really gotten a feeling of just how powerful Shocker really is. Oh. He's been one of the guys that's given Spidey some of his hardest battles over the years. And I felt like the way they did it, when I saw it, I could feel the concussive force from the shock gauntlets and the way that it hit and everything. I was like, oh, that's it. That's Shocker. That's amazing. So, just getting to be a part of that up front was phenomenal for me as a fan and as an actor. And then, getting to see the finished product was just kind of like, all of us that worked on it, we were blown away by how good it was. None of us, as good as we knew it was as we worked on it, when we finally saw it done, it was just kind of like, I remember when we did this cool thing. So they were very generous in that they took a lot of the cutscenes, the video stuff, and there's a ton of it in there. And they took it and they put it together into about an hour and a half movie. They don't have like the boss battles, so the Shocker stuff wasn't in there. I think the Vulture stuff wasn't. So a bunch of stuff's not there. Sure. But they took all of the central story stuff, all of Spidey, Peter, MJ, Aunt May, Doc Ock, all of that stuff, and brought us over to a theater in Burbank, the cast and crew, and screened it for us as a movie.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting next to Dave Fennoy, and we're both watching this thing. And every 5 minutes, one of us will turn to the other and say, how can this be this good? How can this be this good? And at the end of it, and I'm not going to give it away for anybody that hasn't played it because it's still well worth playing, but at the end of it, we're all sitting there in tears. And I'm looking and going, I'm crying at the end of a story in a video game. How did they do this to me? And I even worked on it. I'm in this game. They got me. They got me.
It hits so hard. I mean,
it's so good. It's so good.
And it's by far like one of the best games on the PS4, like objectively. And you know, when I saw that Shocker was going to be in it, I mean, I was super stoked because I don't think we had Shocker. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we had Shocker in a Spider-Man video game since I think on the PS1, Spider-Man 2, Enter Electro. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But when
I mean, because there've been a number of people that have played him before me. So, but I think you're right. And certainly, just for me as a fan, it's my work notwithstanding, me having anything to do with it notwithstanding, I just, from what they created, the way they wrote him, and I love the redesign of his armor. He looks like such a badass. And you really feel the power that Shocker has. You really feel that this guy is a genuine threat to Spider-Man, and this is not going to be a walk in the park. He's really going to have to bring his A game to beat this guy. And I love the fact, and a lot of the fans had responded with this, and it was so gratifying to hear people give this feedback that they got it, because hopefully it means I did my job right, because the writers certainly did theirs. That they felt the fact that Herman was torn. They felt the torment in him that he didn't want to be doing this. He didn't really want to fight Spider-Man. He just wanted to do what they were forcing him to do for his own reasons and get out of there. And he even tries to reason with Peter and say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight you. Just let me go and this is going to be over. And I love the fact that they gave him that, that shades of gray thing. Because in real life, almost nobody, and there's a few exceptions, but most people as a general rule are shades of gray. Most people have elements of good and elements of not so good. And the balance is tipped, but even quote unquote bad guys may still love their family, and pet kittens, and it doesn't excuse the bad things they do, but there are shades of gray in life. So I love the fact that they were able to depict that with the way that they did Herman in that game, and it was such a great thing for me to get to play him.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was super stoked even just when I heard the lineup. I mean, Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man, you as Shocker. I mean, let's go. When I saw that when the game first came out, and oh my god, it was so great. But you did touch on the fact that he is kind of, I don't know about an anti-hero, but there's definitely like kind of a gray area on his like morality. Now, for your games, your animes, your cartoons, all the characters you voice, they kind of flirt the spectrum, be they good, bad, somewhere in between. Is there a preference that you have playing, or you just kind of take any role that, becomes available to you?
Well, again, back to the mercenary thing. And one thing I do want to clear up, because I think one of the things, too, that sometimes fans misunderstand when we say something like that, we're mercenary and we want every role we can get. Because as a fan myself of things, I think one of the things, and this is where you kind of verge into that whole idea of toxic fandom, which has become a problem and something people have identified, in recent years. On, the good side of it is that everything we're a fan of, we incorporate those things into who we are. It becomes part of our personality. The things we love are woven into the fabric of who we are. So we do tend to, I think, have something of a proprietary interest in the art that we consume because it's become a part of us. So we feel a certain sense of ownership towards it, which on the one hand is a lovely thing. When it becomes a thing of people saying, if you don't agree with how I feel about this, you're not a fan, or you have no right to be a fan of this, or telling the creators, no, you got it wrong, this isn't how you do it. Okay, well, that's not healthy. That's not good. But as a fan, we live with these things over time. I mean, I've been a Star Trek fan. Literally, some of my earliest memories of life are from about 3 years old on, watching Star Trek. To this day, I still watch Star Trek every day. It's one of my favorite things. I love it. It's a huge part of who I am. So I've lived with that literally my whole life, and I know it inside and out. I know it intimately because I live with it on a regular basis. As an actor, particularly working on games and things like that, we don't have that same experience on the work side, because a lot of the time we're coming in, we'll work on something for a day, or maybe work on it for a few weeks, depending on the scale of the character in the game. So, and we're given all the information that they can give us to get the work and to do the job as best we can. But once that's over, then we go on to the next job. And because we interacted with something from, if I did one session on something, it's 2 to 4 hours. And then we go on. And then if people say, oh, well, they don't care about this. That's not true. It's not that we don't care about it. We do care. And every time we set foot in the booth, we feel a responsibility, one, to the people that hired us to be there, to, they're paying us money to fulfill their vision. That's a serious responsibility. Someone's paying you to do something. You owe it to them to give 100% and to try and fulfill their needs that they are giving you their money for. That's a big deal. And the other side is walking in, of course, you want to also make the fans happy, because we're trying to create something that's for people's enjoyment. That's why we're doing it. We want you to love it. We want it to be something you make a part of yourself. But we don't end up living with it in the way that fans do. So I think I've seen some complaints. Oh, he didn't care. It was just a job. Well, nothing's just a job. We care about every job. I can tell you that for a fact, because, we don't do these jobs. One, we don't eat. But two, we do this because we love the work, because nobody's going into this thinking I'm going to get rich at this. The fact that we're actually able to make a good living doing it is, an incredible blessing, and just kind of sheer dumb luck in some cases. But, so, it's not that we don't care. It's just that our exposure to it is different than when you have the time to pick something you like and then live with it. So I just kind of wanted to make that clear. It's never, shouldn't say never, because I can't speak for everybody, but I think by and large, it's not that we don't care. We do care. We're just not having the same level of exposure over time and living with it as when you choose to play a game or watch a show. With a show, it's a little different, because particularly if you're doing something episodic, then you do get a chance to live with it. You're working on something over time, which is great, because you get a chance to develop the characters and understand the world and understand the other characters and how they interact with one another. And so that is a different thing. But definitely on games, I'll guarantee you, I care about every game I work on, no matter what it is, and no matter how short a time I'm there. I care about it, and I want you to love it, and I want the people that hire me to love it. So I just found myself down a side street there. I have no idea what question you asked me now, but that was something I wanted to bring up, though.
No, I didn't. I honestly didn't want to stop you, because you were on a great tangent that I didn't want to end. No, my original question was, a lot of the characters that you voice are different parts of the morality spectrum. Did you have a preference, or just kind of, are you open to whichever character that project that you were passionate about needs?
Well, anything, because again, it's my job. My job is I'm a voice actor. That is my job. If you pay me, I will come do your work to the best of my ability every time. And I'm happy and thrilled and thankful for every time someone hires me to do something. You never lose that thrill. I don't. And I think, talking to friends and peers, I don't think anybody ever loses that thrill. I think it's always like, hey, look, I get to work on another thing. Oh my God. Because you never know. You could work on something and then they never call you again, ever. It can happen, and it does happen. But so I love anything I get a chance to work on. And the great thing is, because of the nature of this job, and because of where I kind of sit in the field of people, I am one of those kind of range character guys. And just as a sidebar to that too, a lot of the time, like you say, if someone listens to my animation reel, and there's about 35 voices on there in about 90 seconds, which is kind of long, but a friend of mine who's a booth director at one point said, if you're going to go 90 seconds, you got to give me a reason. You gave me a reason, so don't touch it. Yeah. But they listen to that and think, oh, you have to be able to do all of these different voices. And, I can't do all of that. Then my response is always, then don't. Do what you do. If you can do one or two things and do them well and believably and make me believe you are that character, you can work, because it's about the acting. It's not about range. People conflate like range and talent, and they're not the same thing. You can be an enormously talented actor and not have a huge amount of range, but still be believable and committed and grounded and all of those things. So for me, one of the joys of it, though, is that because I am capable of doing kind of the range thing, is that I get to play all these different characters, and I never know from day to day who I'm going to be today, what kind of character I'm going to be. If I'm going to mix it up, sometimes I get to be heroic, sometimes I get to be straight up evil. But I think the gray area characters are my favorite, just because they tend to be the most grounded, because that's the way life works. And they're fun because you get to kind of, walk that line between, the light side of the force and the dark side of the force. And you get to kind of use both of the powers and go, hey, I got this kind of cool mix here that you don't have. One of my favorite characters recently, and probably one of my favorite characters I've ever played, is, if you've played Outer Worlds, was Vicar Max. Max is one of my absolute favorite characters that I've gotten to play, because he absolutely treads that line. He is essentially a good man, but he's also kind of a jerk. And he's smart and he's snarky. And I'll tell you, that's another thing. When we were working on that game, I got these long, almost monologues, which is not something you get in games all that often. Where it was just a lot of genuine storytelling and character development with a lot of information and nuance. And I would get to the end of a run of some of this stuff, and I would look at the director, and I would say, this writing is just so good. And she would say, oh yeah. And we would just tell the writers, we're like, guys, you're killing me here. This writing is so good. I can't believe I get to say these words. You guys are killing this. So definitely, I think I like all of them. Bad guys are always fun to play, because, everyone likes to be the bad guy, because sometimes the good guys can be a little two-dimensional. And I don't mean that from the writer's standpoint. It just means as there's a certain framework you have to fit into if you're a straight up hero good guy, that you really do have to kind of stay on the light side. And that's fun to play too, but getting to mix it up, and that's where you can kind of find that grounded thing and try to really bring some nuance and reality to things. So yeah, the gray area characters, I think, are definitely my favorites.
Sure. Honestly, like, Vicar Max is one that you brought up that I am actually really glad you brought up, because yeah, he definitely does flirt that little line, but man, he's definitely my girlfriend's favorite character in that game. And honestly, cool. I would be on to say that he probably is mine as well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, now is your chance. If you haven't already, I see that plenty of you have already, but if you haven't already, go ahead and ask your comments and questions in the live chat below, or on the side, wherever your bar is, because we're in the plug zone.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, now is your chance to plug, promote, advertise, whatever verb you want to use. Use this time wisely. Now's your time.
Wow, no pressure. Thanks.
No pressure.
Well, I guess I just want to say to everybody who showed up for this, thank you for giving a crap that I exist and that I do this for a living. That's one thing I never take for granted, and I don't think I ever get used to, or certainly will never get over. And I say it every time I do one of these, but the fact that anybody on the planet that is not related to me or doesn't know me personally, gives a crap that I do this and that I want to, talk in funny voices for a living, always humbles me and blows me away. I'm so appreciative of it, because, if you guys didn't care, then I wouldn't have any work. So I just want to thank you all for supporting me and supporting the work, and all of us that are doing this stuff, because we do it for you, and we really want you to love it. And we're so happy when you do. And it's such a great thing to get a chance to interact with you like this. And for everybody that took the time tonight, with everything going on in the world, to sit down and listen to me ramble. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I just want to thank you. I've got a lot of stuff coming out that I can't talk about yet. I promise you I will as soon as I can. But mostly, if you want to keep up with me, Twitter and Instagram, Dave B. Mitchell on both of them. I make it a point if you instant message me, if you instant message, I talk for a living. If you instant message me, if you comment on my wall, if you tweet something, if you post something, I try to always make it a point to respond. If it's not as timely as I would like, I apologize. But, every time I respond and I get the response like, oh my God, I can't believe you responded. My thing is, well, why are we here? We're on here to connect with each other. And God knows right now, connecting with each other is about the most important thing we can possibly do with everything going on. That's priceless. The ability and desire to connect with each other and understand each other and talk and share our feelings and our loves and our dislikes and all those things. So, I guess that's probably the big thing is those two places. If you're not already on there, I don't really do Facebook much anymore. I've kind of gotten pretty disillusioned with Facebook, honestly. And the fan pages don't really offer a whole lot. Twitter and Instagram, you definitely get a lot better interaction. So if you have something you want to talk to me about, if you want to ask a question, whatever, I promise you, I will absolutely try to make sure that I respond and answer you. And because I kind of feel like if anybody, again, takes the time out of their day to want to send me a message or say, hey, I loved you in this, or, hey, what do you think of this?
Hey, will you be on my internet show?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's how all of these have come about. If people have said, hey, I have this podcast, I have this show, would you want to come do it? My answer is always, of course I'll come do it. Why wouldn't I get a chance to talk to people that appreciate what I do, which I appreciate so much, get a chance to interact with people, answer some questions, maybe hopefully, shed some light on things maybe you didn't know about, and hopefully try to inspire people not only in doing their work, but just hopefully just inspiring the idea of just trying to be kind and being good to each other. So I'd say that's my plug right there. It's just, if you follow me on those two places. And again, if you want to interact with me, I welcome it, because that's what I'm there for. And I try to keep up with things as much as I can. And, if I don't respond, it's probably because I didn't see the message. A lot of the time, the stuff when someone doesn't follow you, it ends up in a different inbox. And sometimes I forget to go check those. And I'm like, oh man, there's all these messages in here. I forgot. Oh, so that, I guess it's a big thing. If you have something to say, you just want to say hello. You want me to say hello. Hello, I'm here.
And on that note, guys, if you guys haven't already noticed, we have both Dave B. Mitchell's Twitter and Instagram in the live chat if you're watching live on Facebook. If you're watching here on YouTube, it's going to be in the description below. So go ahead and check that out and give them a follow if you haven't already. And with that, we're out of the plug zone. So we're going right into viewers' comments and questions. Now, a lot of people, and it's cool that you, it's kind of funny, rather, that you mentioned, about being nice, friendly, because a ton of people are commenting how wholesome you are. So, that's always nice to see. Also,
my mom will be thrilled to hear that. So,
a lot of people are also asking if there's anywhere that they could check out your music. You did mention earlier that you do music, and you're trying to get back into that with the virus. Is there anywhere that you post your music? And if so, can people check it out? Or is that something in the future you might be open to doing?
It's something I will definitely be doing. I used to have, and this is going back, I used to have a MySpace music page. I think it still exists. I think those things are still there. I haven't looked at it in years, but I had posted, I'd done some scoring work for some indie films. And, I used to have a progressive rock band when I was living in Boston for a few years with one of my oldest friends when he was going to Berkeley, and we were out there doing music. I think I had some of that posted. I don't really have anything up right now, but definitely I've gotten inspired again, and I've been kind of going back to a lot of stuff where I had sitting around for years and years and years, like seeds of things I'd started working on that I eventually wanted to get to. And I'm definitely getting to some of that stuff again. So thank you so much for asking and caring about that. I'm definitely feeling productive, and I'm getting some stuff done here. So as soon as I have anything to share, I will be thrilled to do that. And I will definitely, I'll definitely put it out there on Twitter and Instagram and try to, put it in a place where people can check it out.
Just another reason to follow Dave B. Mitchell on Instagram and Twitter. All right, another person wrote in and asked, is there a favorite voice you like to do? Not necessarily attached to a character, but rather like a kid's voice, an evil voice, a big stoic, heroic voice. Is there kind of one that just has a special place in your heart? Or they also asked, is there one in specific that you don't like doing?
As far as something I've actually done, or just because there are some that are more challenging just as far as like the vocal stress goes. But real honestly, I kind of like doing everything I get to do. A voice attached to a character, going back again to Richard from LFG. I love doing Richard's voice. He's just so much fun to do. And I get to sing, which is cool. It's fun to get to do that again some too. So, in fact, if you want to check that out, that's something I should have told you, but just because it's been around for like 2007, I think this came out. But if you look up Looking for Group Slaughter Your World, it's on YouTube. It's got several million views. It's been around for a while. It's me as Richard, gleefully murdering the inhabitants of a peaceful village, all while singing about it to the tune of part of that world from The Little Mermaid. So that's I love doing Richard's voice. I do a lot of dialect and accent stuff. It's kind of if I'm known for anything, it's probably that more than anything else. And I probably do as much, if not more, work with accent stuff than I do as an American, honestly. And I love getting to do that just because that's definitely comes out of my personality. As a kid, I always had a good ear. So, and that's certainly where the music and the voice acting thing dovetail, because I think you'll find that if you look at most voice actors, most successful voice actors, almost all of us, I think, have some connection to music, have some kind of a musical background, because so much of what we do, even when we're not singing, really is kind of musical, because it's entirely based on sound, on auditory performance. So and with accents and dialects, it's not just pronunciation, it's cadence, melody, timbre, rhythm, all of those things that are so musical. And because I've always had a good ear for that, generally, if I hear an accent, I can usually do it. Some of them I've had to work on more because there's specific stuff, but as a general rule, if I hear it, I have a pretty good chance of being able to do it. So I really love getting to do all of that stuff. And just sort of as kind of a sidebar answer to that, one of my favorite things to do is I love to do stuff in languages I don't actually speak. Particularly the times when we're given free reign to actually make it up on the spot. We're like, this is what the character's intention is, and now we need you to just make up the whatever language they're speaking. That's a lot of fun, because that's where my jazz background comes in, the whole idea of basically taking a set of chord changes and then improvising over them. Creating stuff out of, okay, here's kind of the framework for where you need to go. Now make some music out of these conditions. And definitely getting to work to do stuff in languages I don't speak is a lot of fun, because the good ear and the music background definitely helps there. Because, we'll have dialect coaches there, we'll have native speakers there that a lot of time will feed us dialogue. And it's generally it's not going to be when a character is all of their dialogue is in a language you don't speak, because that's impractical. It doesn't make a lot of sense. One, it takes too much time. And if you're going to go to the trouble of having a character speaking a foreign language, then that character needs to speak that language, because anybody that speaks that language needs to be able to listen to it and say, okay, yeah, that's right. I understand what they're saying. Their accent's right. The words the idioms they're using are right. But that's when I really have a lot of fun, when I get to do, a sentence here and there of something in a language I don't speak, and get directed into it, and then have the dialect coach say, yeah, that's right. That's fun, because then you're kind of like, I just did something I still don't know how to do.
Oh my gosh, I can totally understand though why that would be so fun, especially with your jazz background.
Oh yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, that's all the time we have tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 6 of Visioncon Live. Before we wrap things up, Dave B. Mitchell, is there any last words you'd like to give us?
Again, just a big thank you to everybody that joined us tonight, to everybody that comes and listens to these things when I do them, to all the people that reach out and offer such kind words on social media. When I get to meet them in person, and I really look forward to, when we are all able to go out and do cons in person again. And that's something I've definitely was planning on ramping up this year, actually. Was going and starting to do more cons because I love getting to meet people face to face. Because again, I'm a fan, and I'm a fan of a lot of the kind of things I work on, but I'm also a fan, so I get what it's like. And I love just getting to interact with people and to share our love for something that we have in common. So just big thank you to all of you. If you had a question I didn't get to, feel free to tweet or Instagram or instant message or whatever. If there's something you want to know, if I didn't answer it, please feel free to reach out. I will do my best to try and respond and answer your questions. And thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. This is great. I love what you do. I think you're doing a great job. This is really fun and entertaining. You're great for this sort of thing. You have absolutely the right personality for doing this. I think you're doing a great job. And I just want to thank you and everybody else. Thanks for joining us and just thanks for supporting me. It means more to me than I can even express to you. And I really genuinely mean that. It really does mean something to me, and I appreciate it.
Oh, continue. No, but in all seriousness, Dave B. Mitchell, the world needs more people like you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 6 of Visioncon Live. Join us back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time for my interview on episode 7 for Derek Stephen Prince, voice of Shino from Naruto, Uryu from Bleach, and Kokichi from Danganronpa, just to name a few characters. Until tomorrow, this has been Zach Wilson, and much more importantly, this has been David B. Mitchell. We'll see you next time.